Good morning, Year 4. Today is Wednesday, the 24th of February, and your learning question for today is: can I understand how to edit my work? So, we're moving on to our writing book for this week, and we're going to be looking at pages 6 and 7 today and tomorrow, and we're looking at editing your work. Okay, so I want you to have a go at correcting the mistakes in this piece of writing that I have done. So your warm up for today is to check that I have spelt things correctly and I've used the correct punctuation. So I'll read it out and I want you to make the corrections to it. I love going to the park with my granddad. He's the best because he buys me an ice cream afterwards. He taught me to ride my bike there too, okay? So it's not a very tricky piece of writing, but I want you to have a go at correcting the spelling mistakes. So pause the video and have a look at any changes that need to be made, okay? That's just to warm your brains up to start today's lesson. Okay, so we are looking at editing work today, and we always need to edit our work after we have completed a piece of writing. Now, have a think, why do we need to make sure that we are editing our work? Why is it that Miss Prince always tries to get us to read through our work when we have done, to check for things like capital letters, full stops, commas, that we've used the correct sentence structure, we've used the correct spellings? Okay. It actually allows us to check whether the writing makes sense or not, and it allows us to recognise how we could improve it to make it better. Okay, so there are a couple of reasons there as to why we need to edit our work. So it allows us to check that it makes sense, it allows us to recognise if it could be made better and improved. Okay, so have a think at some of the other reasons as to why you might be editing your work. So we can improve our writing by reading it out loud. So I wouldn't recommend it in the middle of a literacy lesson when Miss Prince is trying to mark lots of children's work and answer lots of questions. But I would recommend that if you're doing a piece of writing at home, that you read it out loud, because sometimes when you read things out loud, you can recognise if something doesn't make sense, and then that allows you to make the correct changes that you need to when you edit your work. Editing our work also allows us to take words away that we don't need, so we remove them, and we can split and combine sentences. So when I say split and combine, it means we can break sentences down if they're very, very, very long, or we can combine them if they're very, very short. Okay? And we can also check for things like spelling errors. If we need to add capital letters to nouns, or full stops, because some of us seem to forget when we start a sentence we have a capital letter, and when we end a sentence we usually have a full stop. Okay, so make sure you're remembering to include those things when you are doing your writing, so then when you come to read, edit and improve your work, it makes it a little bit easier for you afterwards. Okay, so question 1, we're going to look at just this page today. So we're going to be doing questions 1 and 2. And then tomorrow we'll be looking at questions 3 and 4. And then on Friday we'll be moving on to proofreading before we can get started on the nitty gritty of this writing workbook. Okay, so we're just doing our key knowledge that we need to work on before we start our writing workbook. So question 1. This is a passage from a piece of writing about a trip on the London Eye. Some of the words in the extract don't give the reader any new information. You have to read the extract and then cross out any words that are not needed. So your job is to read. So you're essentially going to be a proofreader today, and this is an actual job that people do for things like magazines, newspapers, books. So if you really love reading, you might want to become a proofreader. Okay, it's a very exciting job because you get to read all the new things before they get released to the public. Okay, so you're going to proofread this piece of text, and then you're going to use with a ruler. You're going to cross out any unnecessary words, sentences, phrases to make the text read a little bit better. Okay, so you're going to have a go at turning a bit of a text into a fabulous text. Okay, so I've got the first two sentences. I'm going to do the first two sentences with you, and then you're going to do the rest on your own. So, the wheel turns slowly as we slowly rose higher above the skyline. What's wrong with that sentence? What has the person that's written this done? The wheel turned slowly as we slowly rose higher above the skyline. I can see that a word has been repeated here, year four, and I think we can remove it because we don't need to read the same word twice. So I would draw a line through that word. So I can see that we've repeated the word slowly twice. Let me read it without the second slowly. The wheel turned slowly as we rose higher above the skyline. Or the wheel turned slowly as we slowly rose higher above the skyline. Which one did you prefer? The one with the word slowly in twice, or the one without the word slowly in twice? Have a think. Now I would draw a line through that second slowly because I don't think we need it. I think it reads a lot better. Okay. So your second sentence is there was an amazing view from the top and it was incredible. Now, what can you do again to make that sentence a little bit shorter, get to the point? Because it is saying the same thing twice, but just saying it differently. So there was an amazing view from the top and it was incredible. Where is it that I need to draw my line? Now, there is more than one word here that I need to cross out. That was an amazing view from the top. Now, I think that would be fine as a sentence on its own. That was amazing. That was an amazing view from the top. So I think we can draw our line from and all the way to the end, and then we just save our exclamation mark because we need to make sure that we've got our punctuation. Okay. So your job now for this question is to go through the last two sentences and do the same thing that I've done with you, where I've talked through why I might or might not need to include certain words or phrases in the sentences. So you need to talk it through year four and have a go at thinking very carefully about your choice as to why you would want to take that out of the text, okay? And that's the whole point of editing your work. You take your time, you sit and read it through, and you check it more than once just to make sure that it makes sense, okay? So, for question two, it says these extracts are from a historical story about the Romans. Rewrite each extract to make it better. Now, I'm going to rewrite the extract, but I'm going to say you need to think whether the sentences need splitting up and making into smaller sentences, or if they need to be made into a bigger sentence because they are too small. Okay, so I'll read them out to you, and I want you to think when I read them out loud. So when you're listening to me read them out, year four, I want you to think, right, okay, something doesn't sound right here, or I think it could do with a full stop there and that could be made into a new sentence, okay? So I want you to think very carefully and listen very carefully as to how I read it out loud. The soldier has been marching for hours and he was tired and sore and he wanted to rest, but he still had miles to go. Whew, that was a really long sentence, year four. So, what do you think you need to do to that sentence? If that sentence has made me get out of breath from reading it out loud, what do you need to do? So have a think. You need to rewrite it for me. And the second one is he had blisters on his toes. He had blisters on his heels. What could you do there to get rid of any words and make the sentence shorter so it's concise and it's easier to read? Have a think. He had blisters on his toes. He had blisters on his heels. What words don't you need in there, and what words can you add to another sentence to make it read a little bit easier? Okay, so that's all I'm asking you to do today for your writing, and then we're going to look at page 7 tomorrow. And then after that, we will be moving on to 8, where we proofread our work. And then next week, we get to have a go at some very fantastic writing. Okay, so your challenge for today is, can you explain why it is important for us to edit our work? Why is it that we need to read our work and then edit it to make sure that it does what it needs to do? Why is that important? Okay, so have a think based on the discussion that we've already had today, and write it down and send it in, okay? Oh, okay. Last but not least, our reflection for today. Something that I have learned today. What have you learned today that you think is going to help you in tomorrow's lesson? So what have you learned from today's lesson that's going to help you with your lesson tomorrow? So what have you learned about editing and reading and improving your work that you're going to use tomorrow, okay? Any questions, please get in touch with me, and please send photographs of your home learning to the Year 4 email address. Okay, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.